Hey family. So it's been a minute since I've gone live, but I wanted to get on to share because I didn't want to I think when you start something, you have to be intentional about continuing it because it's for a reason. So I just wanted to get on here, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to just share a little bit about my testimony and what I was going through in 2023, 2024. So I'm going to go ahead and share to Alana. And then I'm going to get started soon. Alana Knows Nonprofits. All right. So go ahead and get started. But, so yeah, I wanted to talk about my road to recovery from grief and depression. And I think a lot of times, even in the faith community, we don't really talk a lot about what is grief, what is depression, what is it, right? And I think a lot of times, even in the Black community, you know, people think when you say, oh, I'm going through depression, then it's like a cop-out for something else, or it's just like, oh, you don't need that. But what I can say is I've been on this platform several times to be able to say to you, hey, I've gone through, or I'm going through grief and depression because, you know, in 2023, my dad passed, and what ended up happening to me was he passes in February 2023. Within like a week, like I was in New Orleans when he passed. So within like a week, you know, you plan the funeral, you plan, hey Siobhan, how you doing? You plan the funeral, you go to the funeral, and then you say to yourself, oh, well, I need to go back to work. But you're not realizing that there's a part of your life where you're responsible for taking care of yourself. So when you're dealing with such a traumatic experience, I never took the time to get me straight. I never took the time off to just see if I was okay. I went like, okay, you know, he passed. Gotta go back to work. Gotta do this. Gotta do that. Gotta do this. Whoa. I spent all 2023 completely out of it. I did not know if I was coming, if I was going. I could tell you significant things that happened in 2023, but I cannot sit here and tell you, oh my God, this small detail happened. Because when you're dealing with, hey best friend, when you're dealing with so much, you become so engulfed in what happened. And I can tell you, like, from the trauma of my dad passing, like, my body completely shut down. Like, my menstrual cycle shut down. I'm being very transparent. My menstrual cycle shut down. My body went into pure shutdown. I did not have a period for almost 2 months because I was so traumatized by the phone call I received, and I was just like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? And I remember going through 2023, but it was just a blur. I cannot tell you what happened in 2023. You can have a conversation with me, and I can go find a picture, I can go look at something, and I can say, oh, that happened. And you might say, yeah, Alana, that happened. That happened. So when I got to 2024, enough was enough. I was coping with depression and grief, very toxic. I was not doing well as a person. And I remember going into my doctor's office, and I just said, I had an annual screening, and I just said, I need help. I need help. I knew enough was enough when I was like, I cannot live this life anymore. I cannot do this anymore. And the moment I went into the doctor's office is when everything just started. It was like everything fell apart, but it fell apart in order for it to come back together. So when I opened up and I said, I need help, and I'm just bawling, crying, but you got to think, I hadn't talked to anybody. I mean, I'm talking to like pure strangers, like 3 black nurses at that. And I'm just like, there's something wrong. I need help. And I ended up getting some help. I ended up reaching out to, we can't sit here and say that black people don't go to therapy. I ended up reaching out to Gene Blackman, and I was just like, something's not right. And he was like, you need to go to therapy. And then so I reconnected with a male therapist because I was getting the runaround because they was telling me like, hey, you need to take a leave from work. So I ended up finding therapy through 2 black men. So we cannot sit here and say, oh, well, therapy is not for black people. Yes, it is. And I ended up getting a grief counselor through hospice, which I thought was kind of weird because I was like, who goes to, grief therapy through hospice? Saved my life. And then my trauma therapist, he was and is a African-American black therapist. He's a Christian. He's very conservative. And I said to myself, I needed a black man as a therapist. I thought it was so weird, but I was like, I need this because when you lose a father, I was like, I need the opposite sex to talk to me about what's going on with me. And when yes, there you go. Ronnie said it. People of color, yes. And like I was saying, I had 2 black men that said, you need help. And they got me on the path to recovery because I knew either I was going to be in jail or I was going to be in the psych ward. I was going to be in the hospital because I knew I was so completely overwhelmed with work, with life, with the nonprofit, with everything going on. I remember I was getting so many awards, y'all. I did not even process that the award was happening. So I go to therapy. They started telling me I got disassociation. I'm like, what you talking about? Stuff would happen. I mean, a bomb could go off. Somebody could slap somebody. And my brain would not process that it was happening. Because I deal with disassociation. Now, I've gotten better. I've gotten better with it. But my disassociation is literally me checking out. I would check out so quick. You could talk to me all day and I'll go, oh, I couldn't, it was like I detached from reality. And so both therapists was dealing with me on detaching, dealing with the disassociation, but also dealing with the trauma. Grief therapy, oh my God, this lady, she's a black lady. This lady, she talked to me like she was my sister. But this lady was so powerful. She talked to me about the different stages of grief and how with the different stages of grief is always with us, y'all. Like literally, we have to be so honest with ourselves to realize grief it is a process of how we deal with life. It is a cycle. I used to think grief was like, okay, you're going to go from anger, you're going to go from sadness to bargaining. You're going to go from step 1 to step 2. Cause in my mind, I'm very organized. I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, honey. That grief cycle, she a whole nother breed. She's a whole nother breed. But with grief, you don't know what cycle you're in. You don't know what phase you're in. And I used to go through depression, and this was my depression. There would be a shoe on my floor. There would be a shoe on my floor. Okay? And I would walk in my apartment and say, oh, it's a shoe on the floor. But I would walk past that shoe for 2 weeks. And I would sit on the couch for 2 weeks. Wouldn't go to the bed. But that shoe would be on my floor for 2 weeks. Next thing I know, some says, pick up the shoe. Guess what I do? I pick up the shoe. I clean up the entire apartment. I sit down and I get in the bed and I say, oh, you were depressed. I would not know I was depressed until after I was done with depression. Yes. Thank you, Kevin. My therapist is a black woman, a pastor, and she helped me. Yes. There you go. Yes. And the one thing about me was I would see the shoe. I would say, this shoe gotta go. Because I like a clean apartment. But depression will have you walking past that shoe every day for 2 weeks. And I promise you, my kids would talk to me. And they would say something to me. Like, it would be crazy. And I'll be like, what? And that's how they would like literally help me to get out of the state I was in. Because I was just go. So when I went into therapy, I was going to therapy almost like 3 times a month. 3 times a month, sometimes 4 times a month. I was in therapy for 10 months. A black man and a black woman were my therapists. And they literally taught me how to calm down. They taught me how to just let life happen. They taught me how to stop working so much and just being validated from working my life. Like just working myself to the core. What am I trying to prove if I'm dying? Let's be real. What am I trying to prove if I'm over here and I'm not living? I'm over here drunk in depression, drunk in grief. I'm all jacked up, okay? I'm just in it. I was isolating myself. I didn't want to talk to nobody. I was just like, nope, that's just not how it is. But I knew there was something wrong. And I got help. And I stayed committed to the process. And my trauma therapist, he taught me about boundaries. He taught me how to be assertive and not passive aggressive. He taught me how he would call me out. Black men therapists, they call you out. They give it to you straight and not late. They be like, no, you're not doing that. And I'm like, man, like there's no hiding when you're in that state of mind. And I went through it, and through my therapy, I was able to apply for a whole new job. I ended up getting close to a $30,000 pay increase because I was moving out of the state of survival and I was moving into a space of rest. Because you got to think, I didn't realize that I was in survival mode since I was 16 years old. My dad left when I was 16. He didn't come back until I was 18. I was on A&T's campus. But he stopped financially supporting me when I was like 21. So I was always in a state of just survival. And one day I talked to my mom and I said, did you ever realize that we were always in a state of survival? That we've never had a moment of just resting and understanding that we're okay. All things are well. Like, you know, the song says all is well. It is well in my soul. I never lived that life. I don't know what you're talking about. So when I went into this $30,000 pay increase, it was the process also. It was trauma. Transitioning from, oh my God, like I'm paying my bills. And when I pay my bills, all my money is gone. And then I got to work this business. Yes, I had to work a lot of those nonprofits. But I'm depressed and grieving. And I need this money so I can survive for the month. But I need help because I'm crazy. Make that make sense, y'all. So I'm over here, I don't have no money. I'm paying my bills, all my money gone. I get paid once a month. I work for the state, y'all. And I'm sitting here like, what you mean? And you go from a state of survival, being in survival mode, you don't even know that you okay. You just like, if something happened, like you always on edge. That was my life for years. I'm 39. That was my life for almost 20-some years of just always being in a state of survival mode. So when I finally got the pay increase, I could not process, I could not connect with, you're okay. All is well. State of peace. I'm resting in what God said, what God promised me, okay? And therapy helped me through that. Because I had to understand, why is it that I can't take a compliment? Why is it that I'm never really satisfied with what I've accomplished? I've received the highest awards. I got a whole little trophy chest. Brain can't process it. Cause you always in a state of survival. Then you pack that on with trauma and grief. What you talk about an award for? They ain't gonna feed me. That's not gonna pay my bills. That's not gonna help me to get from point A to point Z. So when I learned that I was okay, it took me a minute. And my promotion, I didn't see my promotion until about August. So it's November. So you got to think, being able to process financial increase and financial stability has been a journey through this whole recovery space. And I started noticing that I was getting better when I didn't have nothing else to talk to my therapist about. When I started saying, I felt like I was going in circles. And I started doing therapy sessions with the therapist. And one day recently, I said to my therapist, and I said to the other therapist who helped me, I said, I think I'm at a state of okay. I'm okay. I have the practical tools to help me. I have identified what I need to do. I enjoy grief therapy. But I'm in a state of understanding that my dad did pass. He did. My daddy was sick. I acknowledge that. I love my daddy. I look just like the Negro. Okay? Pew. But I acknowledge it. I understand the space of what traumatized me in that moment when I got the phone call and the way it sounded when they told me. Because when I walked into that funeral home and I saw my daddy, oh, Lord Jesus, I told them people they was lying. I said, that nigga is not in that casket. But I'm telling you, I blacked out. I fell out. I fell out because it's like when somebody can sit there and say to you, this person's gone. They gone? What you mean? Their house still here. Their phone still exists. The car's still in the yard. I can still smell him when I walk into the house. What you mean he gone? Child, when I walked into that funeral home and they said you gonna view this body for the public, y'all, they was lying. I told them people, I said, y'all lying. They had to pick me up off the floor because I was like, oh no. But you got to think, that stayed with me. You're calling me, you're telling me this about my daddy. I just talked to this man. What you mean he gone? And another thing about me with my daddy, when he was sick, I was supposed to go to Atlanta. And I said, I was like, I don't think I want to go. And he said, I don't want you to go. And I was like, okay, he don't want me to go, I ain't going. So when I went to New Orleans, it was my best friend's birthday weekend. And they was like, my dad was like, oh yeah, you need to go to that. Because it was Mardi Gras. And he like, oh, you need to go. I was like, okay, well, he telling me to go. But I knew for a fact I had to be in New Orleans. I'm telling you, if I was in North Carolina when my daddy passed, child, please, I would have been on. They would have had a whole police troop behind me, because I would have been doing 100. Somebody would have come pick me up, because there was no way you was gonna put. I knew God for a fact put me in New Orleans, because there was no way. I'm like a hawk. I know what's going on with everybody. So there was no way. God protected me. And sometimes you gotta say thank you, God. Even though that was a difficult situation, I say thank you. Ronnie said people will see all the great things you do, but it means nothing to the individual when they feel. Yes, sure enough. But yeah, I went through that. I went through that process of some, just trying to figure it out. And when you go through therapy and you go through all this stuff and you lay it out on the line, the one thing I will say is I fought God like he was, man. I fought God to the point I was like, forget God. I used to talk to God. I probably still do. I used to talk to God like I was like, you know what? We're going to fight today. And God would sit there just like this. Okay. And God, I would fight God to the point I would go off. It was like a boom. That's all I could hear. I would be screaming at God. 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't care. I'm waking up like, I'm ready to fight God. I'm going to fight God because you took my daddy, right? Okay. I went through that from 2023 to 2024. And I fought God. I fought God toe to toe. But let me tell you something. The word says he would leave the 99 to go get the one. Baby, I was the one. Because there was so many times that I knew for a fact that if God was human, he would have been like, girl, bye, I'm not talking to you. But because God is God, and because he says his name is Jehovah Rapha, that means the God that will heal. Okay? When I tell you, God will heal you in your mind, he'll heal you in your body, he'll heal you in your spirit. But also, one thing you also have to understand, that God is Jehovah Jireh. When I was broke, I'm talking about I was so broke. I was broke. I moved into this apartment. I knew I couldn't afford this apartment. I knew it. I knew I had to work my second job, my second side hustle. And I knew that he was Jehovah Jireh when I read the scripture, and Abraham, he called the place where he was going to sacrifice Isaac. He said, I call this place Jehovah Jireh, where God provides. So I put it on my wall because I was so broke. And I run my business from my apartment. And I said, well, clearly if he's Jehovah Jireh, that means that he's going to provide where I do my business at. Okay? So I was going through all of that. But let me tell you something. Being broke, not making no money just gone to bills and everything like that. But guess what? I never missed a meal. I never was at the gas station and my gas card didn't work. When I tell you God took care of me, please. God forgive me. I fought God so hard. The fact that he still knows my name and he still wakes me up in the morning and he's still with me, that's a testimony within itself. Because I was like, no, you playing. Who you talking to? Because when your mental health is very off, you'll be ready to fight anybody. And I knew for a fact God had my back because he ain't let me, like, I woke up in the morning and he was like, I'm still here. And the crazy part is I still did prayer every Wednesday at 7:30, going crazy, losing it, life falling apart. I had to take a leave of absence from work. I took a leave of absence from work for 2 weeks. I should have took longer. But I took a leave of absence from work, and that was the best decision of my life. And when I took that leave of absence is when I got me when I found out I was getting another job. And I literally have gone through this year, and I've been committed to my treatment. I've been committed. I've been honest. I mean, there's times when I went off on my therapist, and he just sat there like, okay, that's how God be talking to us. God be looking like, you good? So I'm just here to encourage anybody who's going through something. You need mental health counseling, you need therapy, you need something to just get it out of you. Seek treatment. There's nothing wrong with going to therapy. I dealt with two of them. And right now I'm on an as-needed basis. My trauma therapist, we have gotten me to a point where I'm good. I'm solid. People say to me all the time, they say, your face look peaceful. It is. My apartment peaceful. My life is peaceful. People ask me, why are you single? I said I had to go do therapy. Because there was no way I was looking at a man. There was no way I'm looking at a man, or I'm paying attention in a relationship to a man. And I'm going through all this. What time do I have for that? I had to go through what I had to go through in order for me to be at peace with myself. So, my words of wisdom, if you know you got some hell brewing up inside of you, don't take this to nobody else. They don't deserve that. And that's the truth. I felt like nobody deserved to go through what I was putting myself through. And I had to get myself healed. I had to work on myself before I brought it to somebody else. And now I can have a stable and solid conversation with somebody, and I'm not going off the deep end. I'm right here. I'm okay. And another thing, I can tell when somebody else ain't right. I be like, oh, there's something wrong with that person. Because you recognize triggers, you recognize trauma, you recognize depression, you recognize narcissism, manipulation. You don't need that in your life. You see some stuff, it's not for you, it's not for you. Don't force nothing. And if you have to force anything, it's not for you. So, that's my rant. But I'm doing pretty well right now. I give all thanks to God. Me and God, we still on this journey. He still deal with me. But the good thing about me is that I always go back to what he said. I always go back to the word. I always go back to God's presence. I be like, oh, I'm out of alignment. I always go back to what God said. I don't care what nobody say. Did I get it right? I don't care. I don't care. And I know that sounds kind of jacked up. There's a lot of things I just don't care about anymore. I care about what God think about me. Because if God woke me up this morning, that means I got a purpose. That means I'm still here to do something. Because the reality is, I really don't know what time my daddy passed. My daddy was at home. It was in the middle of the night. I don't know what time, what hour. I don't know how he passed. I know that he passed. Okay? So when you can wake up and God gives you the ability to move your hands, move your feet, to speak, to think, to do, that's a blessing. Because my daddy was paralyzed on the left side. He had to get his leg amputated. And when you think about all that stuff that he went through, he had a stroke in 2017. And when he went through that stroke in 2017, the one thing I didn't know until he passed, I said, my daddy would always make a way to get to me. And y'all, I don't know if y'all know this, but like the Walmart on Chrome Boulevard, my daddy called it the Black Walmart. He was like, meet me at the Black Walmart. I would go meet him out there. Just like whatever he wanted to do, however he wanted to get to me, I would go meet him. And I said to myself one day, I don't think my daddy got legal license to be driving. Because I never saw a handicap sticker. And I was like, I don't think he's supposed to be driving. But after my daddy passed, I realized my dad used to say this all the time. He said a man always know how to get to his woman. He said a man always know how to get to his woman. I said, wow. So you want to sit here and tell me y'all in these relationships and this person can't even pick up the phone and text you? This person can't meet you halfway? But my daddy was disabled, wasn't even supposed to be driving, but he found so many ways to get to me. And you think I'm going to sit here and let a man tell me that he can't do something and he got 2 legs, 2 hands, arms, everything working, your mind working? Y'all better stop playing them games with people. But it took me to after death to understand what my daddy was talking about. He always would say that. He said a man know how to get to his woman. A man always know how to make a way. And I was like, man, what he talking about? Because I always knew he was going to make a way. I always knew if he wanted to talk to me, that's how he would talk to me. And he would stay up 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning and just talk to me. And he would tell me about his life. And he would tell me all these things about himself. And he used to say, Alana, if I die, I'm satisfied because I've done everything I need to do. And I'm like, man, why he always telling me this? But guess what? When it came down to that funeral, and my mama was trying to make all these plans for my daddy, I said, that's not it. He don't want that. Because the day he got his leg amputated, my daddy told me exactly how to do his funeral. I don't know why. It was January 16th, 2023. I never forget that day in my life. My daddy told me exactly what to do for him because he wanted to be cremated. And my mom was like, he never told me that. I said, he told me that. So anyway, I'm good. Because I can have this conversation. I ain't crying. So thank you all for listening. I just wanted to share my process on my recovery, my road to recovery with through grief and depression. I feel like I'm in a healthy space. I believe I'm in a healthy space. I have the proper tools. I still have my therapist that's connected to me. I have a Black male therapist with trauma, and I have a Black woman as my grief counselor. So if you need help, you're located in Gifford County, you can reach out and say, hey, who's these people that you was dealing with? I don't mind referring, but I'm always going to be honest and open with you so you can get the help because I got help. So I love living in peace. So I hope y'all have a great evening. I just wanted to share this testimony. I know I'm a little country. I'm from Reedsville, North Carolina, Rockingham County. So talk to y'all later, y'all. Bye-bye.